I think the person who inspired me to work with film and photography was my father. And when I was about 13, he gave me a very, very beautiful camera, and I loved using it, and I still love still photography, even though most of the work I do is with film these days. My father was incredibly supportive of me, and so was my mother. They didn't mind what I did, so long as whatever it was, I did with a passion, and I tried my best at. So I had this beautiful camera, and I used to take a lot of photos, and I learnt to print photos, but I didn't want to be a photographer. I was more interested in film. And then when I was 16, I got a job working for a television network, recording sound and what was called a stringer. So that's how I started out. The first film I made was a documentary about a group of people who painted a mural, and that was very popular in the 80s. So that was the first film I made. A number of years ago, someone offered me the opportunity to come out to Doveton College and set up film and animation units at this school, and it was a great opportunity, and I decided I wanted to come out here and work with the young people in this area. Making film is really hard, and the idea that you might enjoy it is sometimes hard to imagine. But I think the film I liked making the most was the one I just finished called Stackorama, and I liked it because it had a beautiful light-heartedness to it. I've had the privilege of working with lots of people, but probably the biggest name I did something for was Dan Aykroyd, the man from Ghostbusters, and I wrote the voiceover for a film we made called Defend, Conserve, Protect, which was about whaling and trying to stop whaling. There have been films that I wanted to make that for various reasons we couldn't, and that can be disappointing. But when you go into doing something creative, you know that at sometimes you won't be able to do certain things you want because of money, because people change their mind, or because maybe sometimes your ideas get old or dated. So I went to certain countries for work. Yes, that's certainly the case. I went to Ireland to work. I've been to New Zealand to study some ideas we were working on for a project I'm doing at the moment. I went to Papua New Guinea to do some research on a film that I wanted to write. I went to Hong Kong to consider whether I wanted to work there, but I couldn't stand the humidity, so I didn't. So yes, and lots of other places too. Yeah. I wish I could sit here and go, gee, I had this all planned out and this is exactly how I went about it, but I didn't sort of do that. So I was at school, I got a job at a television network when I left school, then I went to university and I travelled a lot around that, and then I would find projects I was interested in to work on and do those, and that's how I went through my life. It's often referred to as being a journeyman, so it wasn't like I have a really, really well-structured plan, and I'm still pretty happy I did that. I currently have 2 projects that I'm working on and one that I would like to work on. One film is about a group of people who ride motorbikes for 24 hours in a race, and they have to stay on their bikes for 24 hours. They're motorbikes, and I would really like to work on that, and I've talked to the people who are making that film. I also have another film which is set partially in Iceland and partially in New Zealand, and we're currently working on that. The script's finished, and we're just in the process of finding a new producer, and we have the director and some money, and hopefully that will come about. There are things I like about filmmaking and there are things I hate. The things I hate is I hate standing on set. I get really bored and it goes so slowly. The thing I like the most is when you first have an idea or someone comes with an idea to you and you get to spend this great moment of imagination thinking about how things could be and how you're going to do it, and that's probably the best part of it for me. When do you stop making films? Well, I think you can stop at 2 points. One is when the last one you made is complete rubbish and no one will allow you to make any more. And the other one is it doesn't matter. I mean, people make films that are 80 years old. It's not something you have to stop. It's not like you retire at 65. You can make films for as long as you're healthy enough and capable of doing it and people are interested in your ideas. And I have no intention of stopping. So, yeah, I have an essential tremor, which means my hands shake all the time. And it has had an impact on my life that it made it very difficult for me to do still photography. But that doesn't mean I stop. And also a lot of things I shoot now, I get someone else, I create the photo, I get someone else to shoot it. And yeah, there's always a way around something, unless you make it an issue. And I just refuse to make it an issue in my life. I think as we go through life, you have lots of problems at certain points in your life. You know, you might have problems with relationships with your family or your friends or the people you work with. And I think that as I've got older, I've become a lot more tolerant, and I know there's a lot of people in my life who would be laughing their heads off that I think that way about myself. So there was a pause where I wasn't interested in making films. My sister died when she was quite young, she was only in her 20s, and then for about 5 or 6 years I was no longer interested in making films because I just was probably grieving and didn't have any inspiration to do anything. But then you get over those things and I started making films again. Defining success is really hard. People sometimes want to define their success on how much money they have or how famous they are or things to do with their career. I tend to think of my success as being someone who functions all right in the world, and I have some friends and some families and the job that I like, and I work with people that I like, and to me that's success because I enjoy things. How would I like to end my career? Quietly and peacefully. Yeah, I'm not one for lots of noise. I just want to do the things I like and then go home and play with my dogs. One day I'll just get up and go, oh, I haven't made anything for 3 years. Oh well. My dogs will look at me and I'll go, that's cool, we'll go for a walk. That will be it. I'm actually more than just a job. I have friends and family and I have my pet dogs, and so am I happy? Most of the time, but sometimes I'm not happy, and that's just who I've always been.
Trying to think of how we could end this. Like a good question, oh my gosh, whoa.
I think it's interesting that you've got to the end of it and you're still trying to work out how you want it to end. And I think I might have just given you it. That you're thinking how to end your film is quite fascinating. Usually people, when you're learning to make films, you usually always talk about needing to know the start and the middle and the end and the whole journey. Well, that's not always true. When you start a film, you don't necessarily know the start and the middle and the ending. And you've found yourself in this way, in this position. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because you probably find I've just given you the ending then. Maybe. You don't.